Let's see my other one. It is. So, my quest, and this comes under stuff that we were discussing today, discussing the other day, Grant, about how we write a quest and how we then apply that information to that. Is that Kriegstore can have things happen to us. We can have ogres happen to us. We can have the undead. We can have turns of the winds, which is what magic is. And that can then influence things and make things happen that wouldn't normally happen here. So, we could be attacked by... We could have things of intrigue. And I'm focusing on specifically pointing out intrigue because that way it gives us a basis to... yeah, okay. I don't know how to really get that out of my head. That one hurt me a little bit. I just took an Avengers level of threat to the brain. So, up on screen now is my quest that was for Ballarat quest. This is something that I obviously had to get approved. These are things that obviously these are a couple of revisions had happened to this. I am just going to hide that. We don't need to say that just anymore. So if I can figure out how to zoom on this, here we go. 125. We might as well go 150. Here we go. Yep, perfect. That's lovely. So my quest at Ballarat quest was a night game. We got attacked, and there was a between me and my brother-in-law and a few other people on Kriegstore's RP page, we had something happen. And there are things in Warhammer Fantasy that realistically no one should ever know about, aside from, say, like, even your top level people would not know the full story to something. So, a lot of people talk about Warpstone. And Warpstone's always something like, oh yes, Warpstone, we want that. Warpstone is something that Skaven do. They really should be the only people that should know about really Warpstone. And the authorities taking care of the safety of the town. Your nobles probably wouldn't be paying too much attention to it unless it really affected them. But they may know it by another name. Rest in peace, Mordheim. It was Sigmar, baby. Your nobles would be only paying attention to that sort of stuff if that is disrupting their sort of luxury, their day-to-day. They would only know about things like Warpstone if they were close to Mordheim. Because when the comet hit Mordheim, it sprayed that shit everywhere. And that is also a sort of a catalyst for why Vlad von Carstein started attacking. But being people, being average Joes, being what we've already pre-discussed, you wouldn't know about that. The nobles, on the other hand, would probably have heard about Warpstone in a different way. In its more inert cousin, Vyrdstone. So Vyrdstone is Warpstone, but it's essentially a quarter full battery. Is it good? No. It's still Warpstone, technically. And Warpstone is bad. It's uranium. It's every 60s, 70s, and 80s sci-fi rolled into one with all the bad realistic effects. Nope. It is the radioactive waste in all of its states prior to being radioactive waste, while still being radioactive waste. It is quantum radioactive. It is quantum. Ah. Yes, yes and no. Beardstone is funny because it's essentially is just warpstone. Its its state really hasn't changed, which is why warpstone's sort of why I like to why I like to sort of joke about it being sort of almost like the quantum mechanics um, of sort of Warhammer. It is and isn't something. It isn't. It is and isn't going to harm you. It is and isn't going to do what you want it to do. So Beardstone sometimes appears in different colors. Sometimes I feel like I have off the top of my head, and I would take this. I take all this with a grain of salt, but I would take this specifically with a very large rock salt lamp. I feel like I've heard and read before that Beardstone could potentially come in a yellow or like an amber variation, which is I think why a lot of sort of upper echelons and nobles and stuff like that will sort of have some sometimes. It's a passing merchant that got it from some fuck knob out nowhere in a cloak who seemed a little bit hairy, but not really sure, but maybe. And he gives it to a gift and spruiks it up to a noble so he can get passage somewhere, sort of thing. That's how it would enter those hands. Um, uh, so in our setting, Warpstone, nobody should really know about it. Elves would know about Warpstone. Old elves would know about Warpstone, and again, we're going back to that generational knowledge. If they are from Ulthuan, they would probably have heard stories and have been probably informed about the the trepidations and the bad of Warpstone. In fact, elves are naturally somewhat immune to Warpstone because elves are creatures of magic, and Warpstone is inherently magic. In the Warhammer Fantasy universe, we have two moons. One is your standard moon. The other one's green, and that's an omen. It's a bad moon. If it's just that moon, a lot of people are locking themselves indoors. You don't go out. Don't go out when there's just that one moon in the sky. Yeah, when it's the full moon of that moon, bad moon. That's a warpstone moon. That's essentially what happened. The comet from that, a piece of rock from that, flew from that moon and smashed into Mordheim and trashed it. But anyway, green moon bad. Warpstone, it's green as well, is also bad. Comes in a variation called Beardstone. So, coming back to the quest and how we can then shade and twist things into our own settings and to add them to make them fun. So the RP that happened on the Crystal Swordcraft page, Crystal RP page, was a creature that came from beneath Kriegstor. It appeared to be fairly immune to a lot of attacks, which was strange. It seemed to just be really sort of higgledy-piggledy, but it seemed actually fairly weak by the end. Like glass cannon, let's say. Let's look at the scope of a glass cannon. So what happened is that me and my brother-in-law then decided to make a quest on this. The idea is that this thing that's been killed now, so it has been throughout the quest, it's been unbound. They got to that achievement, and then the quest changed a little bit. Yeah, elves have more of an understanding of it. It's bad stuff. We aren't really affected by the corruption, so corruption, no. So yeah, if Warpstone were to spread in Swordcraft, the various elves would likely lock down the town and do a little purge. Yeah. To humans, Warpstone is like, oh, that's pretty, I like that, put it in my pocket. And then burn a hole in their pocket and grow an extra leg out of the hole. That's what Beardstone will do. Sometimes Beardstone will give you that give you a benefit. Oh, you know what? I may have a little burnt hole in my leg, but I feel like I'd run maybe like 5 or 6 miles. Oh shit, my muscle mass feels really good. Yeah. 6 months later, they've got super cancer, and that super cancer is sentient. So we think about the drawbacks and the shades of things again. So, creature was a flesh golem. It was bound with magic. It was bound with different wind. It was bound using the corpses of the bodies from within Kriegsdorf. So, here's how I essentially wrote it. I started with thinking about what the creature did in the RP, and how it moved, how it attacked, and how I could effectively translate that into a quest, into something that would be able to be done. So we think about how many hits something can take, how many hits you can effectively count to when you're being barraged by people. 24 is a good number if you want something to last. When it's getting smashed to shit, you give the creature some leeway. So the stat block was it deals standard damage player v player. So you really want to be highlighting everything that you want it to do, and that you want people to be able to do to it. And players don't actually get to see sort of this stuff, so pulling back the curtain a little bit. Identifying what perks it have and what its behavior is like. Yeah, that's what we're up to while the mages were dealing with a banshee. So its behavior. It was a really fun fight, and I'm really glad it turned out really well. I was really nervous on the actual Ballarat quest, to be honest. So setting a thing's behavior doesn't necessarily limit. It's almost like director's notes on how something should be feeling, how it should be behaving in a certain moment. So you're giving the actor a broad stroke brush of here's what the character is like. So wild creature on a rampage. If it's near death, it still has its sort of fight and fight response. No, I'm about to die, I'm fucking off. And then I gave it some triggers. So a HP range, this will trigger a HP range during 1 to 5. So it's got a level of survivability. So this is a thing that is being given life, that escaped. So it's got a little bit of brain functionality. It works sort of like a pig, or like a wild animal that is, say, a predator style thing. Not as a but more of a I'm gonna hunt and stalk. What got added to this, we'll discuss later on the actual quest. Stuff got added to sort of buff and change. And you can do that because if you're running the quest, it's your quest. You're running it, you can buff and change things to better fit the level of reception you're getting. So not the outcome, but the level of reception. So thinking really well and defining perks for creatures is important, and you want to be very clear about how this works. So, and even flavor texting stuff can also give some really good, can help people really remember and make them understand sort of what type, at least the actor reading it, at least the person playing that, because let's be honest, Swordcraft is essentially a lot of mediocre actors, including myself. We're all mediocre actors plying our trade. Lots of improv. So giving people the idea of how things work, how things move along, how things mechanically and what is it? It's physically happening to that creature, happening to that character, happening to that NPC, and all that sort of. So this one, profaning powers of will have warp this creature, cursing with thickened skin. All damage inflicted upon this creature is negative 1 HP. So fairly simple. Takes 1 HP damage. They gave it a skill, Shocking Grasp. Didn't get used that much, surprisingly. I'll get used a little bit, and then I gave it to the cultists. They were like, cool. Whatever forged this fiend caused it to have an unstable control over the winds. The creature has a Veritas command, Agony. This is modified to work like this. The creature makes contact with a player and will shout Veritas Agony. And these are things that, if you have things like this, where there is command, a brief has to happen with the players. Players have to be informed about a command, because thematically, that Veritas Agony is something just to easily push up, that becomes the fog in the fog on the glasses. It's happened, but it doesn't break immersion of people there. But Veritas Agony, you're in pain for 30 seconds. Sort of takes it out of it and stops the flow of combat. So that's sort of that's when you start needing to do briefs, is when you're adding actual two-side mechanics where people both have to know about what's going on. People don't need to know its HP. People don't need to know how much damage it's taken. They just go, creature hit, and if it drops, cool, we won. All people really need to know. Regeneration. Does this fiend no death, or is it one with a foul wind? A temporary perk. Once a creature is slain, 0 HP, it will start regenerating and not be interrupted in the state. Once it reaches its desired HP, it can get up and return to combat or escape. The monster comes out at night, is hard to kill, and can use spell on spam. If it enters a building, it has effectively escaped. So, again, when you're putting people in a situation where they are going to potentially be fighting more than one person, you have to give these people an out. And if that means they've escaped and that combat has essentially ended, you can break character and you can say, creature's escaped, shit, where did he go? Or you can, or if you can pull it off, you can go, it's gone. Where has it gone? It must have fled under town. My God, the foul fiend of this thing, sort of thing. You can twist it. You can think about ways about how, if something escapes, or if you give your guys that are volunteering to do your quests an out for safety. That's something as well. Is to think about how many people may potentially catch wind of it, and then expanding from there on the fly if need to. There's always people that are going to want to volunteer to be in a position where they are not playing their character, especially during a game where it gives them an option to do something different. So Chaos Cultists or Skaven. You know what I mean? There's always going to be potentially a pool of volunteers that you could maybe grab from. Seven may not be enough, but 7's a good start. 7's better than what I started. You've done, yeah. 7's a really good start because A, you've got people there to watch each other's back. You've got people there that are going to provide support through, and there's going to be enough of them there to cause enough of a ruckus that it's not just going to be punching on one dude. Limiting, if you are taking in sign-ins to do this, to do stuff like quests, like what I did, setting a limit is always a good idea to test the waters and see how much you get for it. But something like what you're planning won't necessarily have to. That 7 that you've got, awesome. A thought would be is if they're not playing their characters, and I think you did mention that in your costuming section, is that having them different to what their characters is always important. It gives a separation of the stuff. Yeah. Mm. 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 Not everybody's gonna. The thing is, and primarily, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's actually fair. There's a level of plausible deniability there. Primarily for the people at home, uh, it's important to definitely have a differentiation between those two things for those people. So having those people well ahead of time, aware that there will be a costuming requirement, fucking black cloak, face paint, um, uh, don't wear your regular quest outfit for it. Set yourself aside black skivvies, plain black skivvies or something like that for yourselves. Something outside, and then add your stuff specifically for this to that. Gives an option. Main takeaways when writing a quest is your stat block. Thematically, what's going to happen? Thematically with your mechanics, what's going to happen? And then setting in triggers and easily identified as a different character, which is something that people at home should think about. Is it definitely has to be easily identified as a different character. A hood with a mesh over it, with a sort of a not a tight mesh, but a loose mesh over it. That's another way to be like, oh, that's a different character. That's potentially a shade. What the fuck is that? I should maybe go probe that. That then peaks and draws people up. Where is it? If and if it's just like a slight variation, it's going to be, are they that character, or is it just another thing? And that is not a deal breaker for anybody. If you put the antlers up and go, I'm a different character. Cool. I'm gonna walk off and I'll come back. Easy. Face paint, hair gel, all good options. Voice change is another good option if you can do voices, even if it's a bad voice that you've been doing in the mirror for months. Go for it. I used to try and do a dick voice, and I don't have a dick voice. That was for a dick to get back. Like, just roll with it. Roll your punches as long as you're having fun. That's the main thing. But when in a position where you're creating stuff, this is stuff that you should really be thinking about: is the outs, the safety sort of stuff that you need for your guys, the mechanics, making sure your guys are 100% across the mechanics. Lessons I've learned, but not mistakes. So now everything's a learning experience, exactly. Now is when you're in a quest, when you're writing a quest, now is the thing when you start thinking about how you want that the separate encounters to function. So I label out the encounters with the win-lose conditions, so I write things a little bit as you can probably tell by this very long TED talk. First encounter. So the first encounter works for this quest that had already happened as follows. First two encounters works as follows. The call of the creature is heard, and the congregation goes on a patrol. So how this quest worked is that I was running the church in Kriegstor. I would say, oh, there's been a recent attack at Kriegstor, or a creature, has been seen. It looks like has been defeated. It looks like it has been man-made. A lot of bodies has disappeared from our graveyard. We are quite concerned that the whoever made this is making more. And then that sparks the quest. People are always going to come into a guild and ask for coin, ask for something to earn coin. So there's obviously an opportunity to earn coin. Not every quest needs to earn coin. The quest itself is the reward most of the time for players. Coin is just a great incentive. So definitely talk to your organizers and your guild leaders about if you want something to do. And of course, come with notes, come with rough copies, come with essentially it written, it done, and then be prepared to take notes. You're always going to have to make edits. So this first encounter, creature makes a call. The congregation starts hearing it. It goes, okay, something's a little bit odd. Let's sort of fan out a little bit. Purposely put your groups into positions of vulnerability. This is when they are going to positions of vulnerability. This is when you're going to end up getting the sort of those peaks of the event. So peaks of things where they get ambushed, where something jumps out and they fuck it up, or it fucks them up, and they're going to have a laugh about this later. Broad strokes again, we're talking. The congregation moves. It will try to ambush the congregation. Combat will then happen. Where if you're doing combat, make sure you're doing combat in an area where it is safe to do so. Obviously, quests have to be pre-approved, so make sure that everybody within sort of running that event sort of has a section for stuff to be slotted in. So that way, everybody who's running a guild would be a part of the sort of pre-quest sort of meeting. Obviously, that's what we had. We had a pre-quest meeting. We sort of went over a few things, what was going to happen quite a few times as we were going through towards the event. And then the final day, and then the first day into sort of the event. Make sure everything's doing and everything, and so we know stuff and that we are aware, and then so make sure people are aware. Don't assume everybody's going to be there for the event, for the combat. If your people are going to attack somebody, make sure it's light touch. Everyone. If they don't look like they're armed, they're probably not there to fight necessarily. If pick and choose your targets, say. Not everybody's going to be armed at quest. In the town, most people will have something on them. But if it looks like a merchant from a stall that's just stepped around to fix up something, maybe don't hit them. Maybe choose somebody who looks like they're drawing for something. That's probably going to be a good target. Those are things that you can talk to your volunteers in those situations, primarily for the people at home. And Grant, I've already read your thing, so we already know that you're 100% across all this stuff anyway. So this is primarily for people at home stuff. Combat happens. The creature gets zeroed and forced to regen. So this first encounter, the creature is to flee. It gets zeroed. If it is zeroed twice, which is what happened, it got zeroed twice. It couldn't res again, which is what me and my brother-in-law discussed. I didn't put in my notes thing in this one. This is sort of the second last draft. The last draft was on the day. He got zeroed twice. We dragged him into the chapel, and he got up, attacked, and then fucked off. And oh shit, it's gone. He got up and got zeroed a couple of times actually. Now that I'm sort of thinking about it, just to sort of, there was only a few people in the first sort of thing, and which was sort of fun, and they were told everybody about it and brought more people. So the day 2 event sections, they're always going to, the first is going to be smaller, the second is always going to probably be bigger, and we can always plan for that. It also does depend on your event. If it is like a fetchy quest sort of thing, actually, as I'm going through it, this is actually probably a good thing to explain as well. So we'll keep going with the first encounter. Force regen, it fled. It got zeroed a bunch of times. It fled. And we're like, oh fuck. You've got to leave hooks. Plot hooks for people that are invested in the quest to follow on. Whether or not that leads exactly to the next encounter, but it's something for them to do, for them to engage, and for them to take up those times throughout quest, which I think a couple of us have probably had. If you've been to a quest before, you probably have those few times where you're like, I really want to do something, but I don't feel like I have anything to do or anywhere to get something to do. I don't really feel like either about making my own trouble, sort of deal. Sort of the more of those that we can have there, the better. Mine was the creature left a whatchamacallit, and that was to lead on to stuff for the people invested in that. So, left a sample. I then grabbed a thing, stuffed it in the thing, locked it up, and went, "That's going in the fucking chapel, and I'll do that in the morning because, ouch." So, then, yeah. So that happens. The following events happen. As it appears, one of the same creatures has attacked. The runner of the quest, Light Milk, will provide a report on the last creature. So this is somebody come in. I want to make some coin. What you got? Cool. Here's this. Have a read. This is what's happened last time. Here's what happened last night. It's come back. Another one's come back. I want you to find leads. As you can see, I'm very busy in my paperwork, as I'm not doing paperwork but eating things and not paying attention to the general vicinity around me as people walk in and out of the chapel stealing shrines. Yeah. He did it in front of my eyes like a good couple of times. I'm like, you fucker. How did you manage that? It was purposely tagged to be stolen. And so yeah, it's a very comprehensive report. You have the half information of things. Your quest, you have half information. People are to go and get full information to work to get the full information for it. Somebody else is going to be always better than you. Always have a better idea of something. You've got to be able to do that thematically. You, my friend. You. Yours is a little... Yeah, No. Yours is perfectly fine to be a singular. The way yours works is you have a win-lose scenario with encounter 1. The win-lose scenario is on the position of the players engaging at the quest. So the lose scenario for yours is that it then happens again with addeds, with non-player knowledge addeds, should I say. Yep. Yeah. 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 That is something to do. Yeah, the win-lose condition of yours would be they fail the roaming. And then the second encounter happens. If they succeed in the roaming, the second encounter would happen straight away with caveats. You can have a lose condition for the player be a positive for the quest. Which I'll get into some sort of explaining through. So what happens is that I had half information because I don't have any knowledge. My character doesn't have any real knowledge of magic. Magic is for other people, not my cup of tea. I like hitting things, and I like praying to Sigma. So I can give my best description of what the fuck I thought it was, but I can say, working within the people and within the leaders of the town, the Magic Authority had the we agreed that the Magic Authority would look further into it because they have a better idea and knowledge of these things. To the previous one again to break it down. This one during the fight, the quest giver identified, yes, in fact, that we do believe that it is similar or of the same nature. So we can say fairly confidently that investigating the previous thing or talking about the previous thing is going to help us combat it. Obviously, you're not always going to be. You're busy in a village. You're all trying to make ends meet. You're all trying to do stuff. Not everybody's going to talk. These are the gaps. These runaround quests. These things in between. These are the things for the players to do. So that way they become more grounded and invested into the actual thing. So, Magic Authority had the comprehensive report. Unfortunately, for the Kislevites, they had to do a quest for the Magic Authority, which I left up to the Magic Authority. I was going to write them a mini quest for them to do. A, I ran out of time, and B, I thought might be a good out for the Magic Authority to be able to have that option to give give me 2 seconds. I have to go deal with a spider. I'll be back. Take this time, guys, to grab a glass of water. Grab a glass of water and hydrate. I have to deal with the spider. Okay, I'm back. Okay. Oh, no, that's alright. Oh, that's bad hair. Okay, so ignoring the state of my hair that it's gotten into. So, yeah. So, have your A and B sections, which are going to be different stuff. If they failed, getting the information from the Magic Authority, which is going to be the easier stuff, which was the easiest thing to get, they would have had a hard time being able to unbind and kill the creature. So, Kislevites had to give an elf a hug. Give a magister elf a hug. But I can tell you what, the magister was very happy. Kislevites, not so much. Not so much. No, I think they managed to talk me into that being both. Yeah. It's something along those lines. It was, to be fair, it was a fairly while ago. Sorry. It was quite a long time ago, yeah. Good old Nurgle. So yeah, Magic Authority, we just said, you know, if you have something that you just want fucking done and out of your way, or if it's just like, go get me this, and it just happens to be a shit quest that you just need out of the way to progress somebody else's, awesome, cool. I'm throwing help your way if you need it, or I'm throwing something to happen. So condition A, Magic Authority will have a comprehensive report, but they will not give it up easily. Q, random fetch quest. Section B, so it's another win-lose condition. It's another thing that the players are doing outside of the encounter. Whispers of researchers being held by somebody in the underground might hold an even better insight into the construction of the creature, potentially authored by its creator. Oh yeah, I'm talking to Graham. Your goal is on the stream as well. This one is not explained well in my document. This was a letter penned by its creator, written in code. This was a thing that had a glyph on the back of it, and essentially it was written in a way where if you read sort of in between the lines, you would have, or have it translating stuff. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Anybody can be a code breaker when you're, you know, writing a quest. You can give it off to a magic person. They go, hoopity, 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 ha, come back in an hour. Go get some lunch, brah. And then they come back in an hour and it's magically been translated for them. And you give the TLDR because you don't have enough time to write the translation. Or you just go, I've seen stuff like this before written purely. Come back in a little bit and I'll have a discussion with a few people. And that makes it look like the quest giver is doing stuff. So it seems reasonable that you're doing things. And then so you can be like, I have no fucking idea what this letter's going on about, but I got somebody to look at this glyph here. Fun fact, it's a glyph of unbinding. A peculiar glyph of unbinding using certain winds. Which is what, in fact, I went with this one. My character isn't going to be smart enough to read in between the lines of some things. He probably has a better idea of having an understanding of hearing the words you're not saying, but reading the in between the lines, yeah, probably not so much, especially if it's sort of a rosy letter penned to somebody else, sort of thing. And I'm having a wonderful trip on my summer vacation. It's just very fruitful here. Fucking fruit and grapes. What the fuck are you on about? Oh, grapes, right. Olives. That's what they're talking about. They're nice, delicious. I miss the War Maidens. Anyway, so that's how you can sort of play it off. You give yourself an out. You make a fun little interaction with that. Making the player wait. That's actually pretty important because it can cause apprehension. They're just like, you know what? Took us a little bit to get this. I want to know how it's going. We may come back in. We may come back a little bit sooner. If they come back a little bit sooner, awesome. They came back. That's the main thing. They didn't forget about your quest. They came back. That's how you know you've got them. So, then happened the second encounter. The second encounter happens the same as the first. So we're repeating the same threat. We're reinforcing that this is oh fuck, that this is a big thing. It is actually serious. The characters are now taking it serious. They are going to experience this creature now at its best. This is the opportunity now in your second encounter to buff your players based on how the first encounter went. If you had 5 people and say Grant you've got 7, if you had 5 people rock up and absolutely just stomp your encounter, time to buff your guys. Buff them however you see fit. You need to give them more HP, awesome. You want them to count every second hit, go for it. Make it easy for your guys to be able to be buffed and still pose a safe level of balance. So if after your first encounter you're noticing more people walking around in full plate armor, if it's a combat encounter that you've created, maybe we buff your guys a fair bit more. Maybe we give them some they'll get a lesser boon. A passive, primarily a passive that players don't need to know about, is always going to be better. Yeah, is always going to be better than giving them a mechanic, an active mechanic that they get a trigger. Exactly. Passives. Yeah. So, in my one, the second encounter was the same as the first. And ambushes for players, combat happens. Player will use a ritual on the beast. So, in the sort of 2 days thing, things were happening. They got the first encounter happened. Went, oh shit. Said okay. So as I'm going through this, things are coming back to me. Said, oh shit. Okay, so we've got a thing that we can essentially have ready and for you guys to get sorted so we can do this thing to finish this thing. Second encounter happens the same as first. Attempts to ambush players, combat happens, but this time the players will use a ritual on the beast / weapon or both. If successful, the quest ends. The body is taken away, burnt, and its ashes is sealed and blessed in a box that is viewable in the chapel for future quests. So, I'm currently making something that's going to be a follow-on to this, that can be seen in the chapel come next Ballarat quest. Having those things where I think if you're in a situation where you can have those things pop up all the time, or have them in town in the next following quest as sort of a little, almost a pseudo achievement for the quest goers, is something that really helps reinforce the world building that is sort of passively happening at each quest. Every quest goer is always going to have their memories, but if they can see those memories pop up later on, and this isn't going to work for everything, of course. Not everybody is going to have a chapel, like a building where they can just put a pedestal in and bang a thing on. You know, not those things are always going to be happening, but little memento. You know, if you're in a position where those things can happen, really make it interesting and help encourage sort of passive out of your quest encounters. So say like the thing sealed up, the face, the face that we got off the creature, the thing is going to be in a box, and I'm going to have a little thing there saying the brave goers of last festival ended this beast Holy Sigmar, bless them this day. And, somebody comes in who did that quest and, oh, is that thing going, oh, yeah, don't touch it. But yeah. And new player, say, following them around, or somebody just in the chapel at the same time goes, oh, that's pretty cool. And conversation then happens about it, and then you're sharing experiences and all that fun stuff. So those things are good. So just even if you write in it and don't ever end up doing, even the stories. You hear the stories later on, you know you've done an alright job. Outcomes. So this is something really good that we should always do is set your win-lose conditions clearly. Set them at the end, because just flick your document right down to the bottom and go, aha, there it is. And that way, if somebody sees your document, you can flick it up and go, you saw nothing. I was just looking at stat blocks. Get out of my house. Sir, I don't know. So outcome 8. This outcome provides a 2-person chant that cuts the creature off from its wins. So the creature was a combination of, I think, about 3 wins, which gave it its stuff. So it removes its perks. So you've debuffed the creature, but the caster needs to be near the creature. It has a 60. Now, then you give its win-lose condition. So the creature is the only one that should know about its percentage of survival, and you will know as the quest giver if if you have active mechanics, these or quests that then affect the creature in its final encounter. These are things that the creature will be obviously briefed on before. So if you go, now you're past the person who's playing the creature or the person who's playing what's happening in between. This is something that they're going to just say offhandedly to them. Oh, by the way, they have both things. So there's a good chance that you're going to have to give them a real good fight. I've given you some extra stuff to help, or given you some extra volunteers to help make the final battle fun. Yep. So, 2-person chant. My thing was it had to consistently go. You know, I was just like, you just need a mage to do a chant consistently through the fight. Should be a 5-10 minute fight. The two, as long as somebody's doing a chant, I had it pre-written out, I'm fairly certain, and it was just basic thing that I had a piece of paper and I just did it. Or we designated as well somebody to do a chant. So there is a degree where you have to be flexible with your structure of things. A, time constraints. B, you think it's going to work. Realistically, when you get there, in the moment, you go, I'm looking at it isn't going to work as well. Then outcome B. Outcome B is this outcome provides an enchantment weapon that unbinds the creature, smiting it -3 HP per hit. If you're going to do stuff like that, make sure your person can count. Thankfully, mine could. 40% chance to kill. Chance to kill 40%. So this is actually lesser than outcome A. This was the church only. The wins was what the magic authority gave us. They gave us the ability to cut it off from the wins. The chapel gave option B, which was the ability to be able to smite the creature. Still had access to its perks, so it would then still be a tough fight. So this is where you add that give and take sort of stuff. Option C, which is A and B. If the players are able, they can use both A and B. Fight the creature, they will have a higher chance of killing it. Here's my mistake. Night 1, we had a few people. Night 2, people heard about it. For night 2, people were signing up, and I mean signing up. I was like, oh my god, it exploded. Okay. Town was packed. I was like, first night, I had like maybe 10, between 5 and 10 people. I was like, shit, okay. you know, it's 1-2 people. You know, I don't want to. It's one dude. I don't want to overburden him. Let's see how night one goes. Night one's great. People had fun. Night 2 happened. The sign up for night 2 happened, and I was like, I need volunteers. Who the fuck wants to join? And thankfully, a bunch of people were like, yeah, man, we've done this shit before. Let's fucking go. What do you want us to do? What are our perks? I'm like, you know what? Go nuts. Here's your hit points. Here's what you can do. You get a little bit of creature stuff as well because you're fucking cultists of the creature, let's say. And yeah, I had, which I'm completely cool with. Completely cool with. You know, and stuff like that. Because we had. I actually have the book. I'm going to grab the book. I'm going to show you how many people actually signed up. They were just in character names, so it's not like I'm doxing people. Oh, shit. Notes. Notes are important. Also, hire yourself a scribe. If you end up getting lots of paperwork and you're running shit, hire yourself a scribe. They are worth all their copper and silver that I wasted. Not a waste, actually. I wouldn't have been able to keep up with the local paperwork. So, let me finish the page. Okay, so I had a lot more people night 1 than I thought. This is night 1. So, that's a good couple of people at night 1 for the mob quest. Now, you're always going to expect people, the people that sign up, those are the people that's going to come. Those are your expected numbers. The people that you're going to lose people, typically you're going to lose some people. People's names that aren't crossed out, they're the people that didn't arrive, didn't rock up. Some people bring extra people. In the case where you only have 1 or 2 people fighting and helping, is when you are going to. I lost my train of thought. Is when you're gonna have to set limits. Sometimes you will have to turn people away if they bring their +1s. You're gonna have to. It's a safety thing, really. And also, it's a copper thing too. If you're running stuff, you're gonna want to make it a sink. A money sink, you know, you pay a copper, and you know if the night goes well, you get a copper back. Simple. Last night, the last night was good. You know, we had this many people turn up and get paid. It's 2 pages, and out of all those 2 pages, only 2 people didn't turn up. Only 2 people didn't turn up. And like, I was shitting my pants by the time that we came to it, and we were like halfway talking through, like middle of the day, we're just like, okay, the quest is going really well, they're doing really good, they're almost gotten to the second thing. You know, I made an extra road bump for them in it. Like, there was a bit in there where I was like, me and the brother-in-law were talking, I sealed his letter, and I was like, wouldn't it be really funny? Because how these things are being made, and because of how the person who's making them is really paranoid about this sort of shit, you know, wouldn't it be really funny if he's booby-trapped the wax seal? And, you know, we've gotten this letter in passing because a postmaster or somebody, whoever delivering it, you know, found it on a body or whatever. It somehow managed to make its way into the hands of someone. The person then sold that letter because they recognized that it may have potential really good information on it. Whether that be, you know, this is stuff that doesn't need a story, doesn't need an explanation as to why. Somehow, this letter was recognized to being valuable, got put into the black market, and then got put up to sale. Your players have to get that, whether they get it from the sale, like the players had to get that, so whether they got it from the sale, whether they got it from purchasing it after the sale, you know, tags on things on what people can do on quests, of course. Gives people guidelines on what they're expecting to happen. So if somebody drops a fuck ton of coin that weren't meant to get that letter, and it's a quest item, they can then go, oh, okay, you know, I already had conversations about, you know, in case these scenarios were happening, maybe come to the church and I'll reimburse you, sort of deal, sort of thing, or at least partially reimburse you, sort of thing, or they'll get involved in the quest and be the one wielding the thing. Thankfully, my players, my players ended up getting the whatchamacallit, a bunch of money, but it was fine. It's fine. It's just sink either way. So yeah, so these players got the thing. They the road bump, the extra road bump that I put in to sort of slow them down because they were just fucking just smashing the quest, was because the letter was booby trapped. It blew green dust everywhere. Oh, that's real strange. Fuck, I've heard something about this before. Just wait a moment there, guys. Suddenly, a few people in the church were like, "Bye, see ya. We'll talk to you later. See ya, guys." And I was like, "Oh no, just wait. I'm just gonna go double check something." So I went across to Metric Authority and said, "You know, this letter is just blowing this weird, strange dust everywhere. It's real strange. You guys know what this is?" And they're like, "In the church, you say? Who else?" I'm like, "No, it's fine. It must be nothing then. You're not taking it seriously, whatever." And so I walked, waving the letter through the street back into the church. Thankfully, the church and the Magic Authority at Quest is pretty close. At Ballarat Quest is pretty close. So that resulted in my death and my scribe's death, because I was an NPC. I respawned back in my thing, and I went and showed the scribe how to do all the stuff with the graveyard, because this was their first quest. So the road bump was, I died. I lost half an hour of memory, which was getting the letter. The mage, the Magic Authority took the letter because it had a magic green powder on it, which was stone. And you know, as an extra road bump, they had to figure out where it was, and they ended up getting, very last minute, they got somebody to divine where it was. I'm like, "It's here." And it turns out that one of the magisters actually decided to play a joke on Sebastian and dump the letter in the Magic Authority. I was like, "Oh, you fuck!" In Sebastian's office tent thing at Ballarat Quest, it's like, "That's fucking gold. You have to steal that back though, dude." So anyway, but yeah, so those are like fun little things that people remember. You know, there's encounters and things like that in there. But how the night ended up going is that we lost. The players succeeded in unbinding and smiting the creature, but because we got overwhelmed by the cultists, and this is stuff that we then changed on the day, like on the fly, because we got so many people signing up, and I was like, I know I've got volunteers. I reckon I probably can snag some more. Let's just give them power to do fucking whatever. They're veteran LARPers, fuck it, let's do it. Yeah, and night turned out really well. Oh man, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that people that put their hand up and said, "Yeah, fuck it, let's do it." Oh, it scarred a lot of people, more some than others. But anyway, you know, my character was fighting as well. The questers got to wield the hammer with the enchantment and the with the you know the glyph, the enchanted hammer, which smites a creature, and the enchantment was going. But the mages had to be kept alive, so there's an extra mechanic I was throwing in. Was like, I thought, I've not had that many extra volunteers. Like, you know, there's a lot of people here. If the chant goes down, Oopsie-doodles. And then they started turning people in the moment. We had to flee the town. The creature was smited, but the cultists left with the creature. So that's repercussions for later on. So, these are things that we can then, work on and add to for later quests and write on to more things and do. So main takeaways is make sure you have all your outcomes done. Make sure you are flexible in adapting to the level of confirmed interest you get in it. Now make sure that the mechanics allow for safety. Have clear ideas about how you're going to control the encounter. Obviously, yourself being present or having somebody who is across that event, that encounter, being present, that can step in and say, "It's dead. You don't need to keep beating it, guys." Or, "Oh shit, it's escaped. Maybe it might come back tomorrow night." Hadn't seen it throughout the day. Just essentially NPC guides there to just a little. And, "Oh, there's a new quest. You've done it. You brave heroes." Or, "We've lost the town to the cultists." Fuck. Shit, guys. That's bad. Also, I potentially bled out there. Maybe. Yeah, mostly. We had to get a mage anyway. Yeah, so and then being consistent in the in those changes, and what sort of things that follow on from it. If the players win, have maybe pay your town crier to say, "Oh, all is well in town. The thing that haunts the night has been smited, but also we now have a cult problem, but all is well in town." And that's something that may pop up in the next Pellerit quest. It's something that may pop up in 2 quests time, 3 quests. It's stuff that you can always draw back from. People don't forget the quests that they've been involved in. They look forward to quests that they had fun in, and a lot of the time they want to see the people who gave those quests, especially if they had fun in it, more of those sorts of things, more things from you. So that's always something to think about. Yeah, safety. Definitely thinking about mechanics. If you need to brief the players on what is going on, controlling the chatter during those briefs, really important. I can experience for hospitality and tourism and all that sort of stuff, shouting people to shut the fuck up and listen and stuff like that is fairly easy, but not everybody's going to be able to do that. Reach out, ask people to help. Your organizer always going to raise their hand and be like, "Yeah, oh, not always, but that came out wrong." Your organizers are going to be the people that you should be able to lean on. Whether that be other guild members. I'm specifically talking like Ballarat stuff, or positions of authority that can help wrangle people in. And even sometimes there's people going to be in the crowd that can, or people within your own warband that will help you say, "Oh, all right, here's what's going on." If you don't sort of have that capability or sort of things. There's always things and ways that you can help manage and control things. And again, to touch on safety is something that I should have really thought about and learned. Should have thought about on the night is what are the potential risks for where you are doing your encounters. So as was a night combat encounter, so we had lights. We had lights that worked. We had sections which were slightly dark, which gave a bit of a spook aesthetic. Obviously, I forewarned the guilds that people may be coming in out of your tents, out of the guild rooms. These are the people that will be doing it. I stated it fairly clear that nobody else can. And telling, and when say a cultist died, they didn't regen, so they had to be dragged. They got dragged back to the chapel. So again, it was giving them respite. Sometimes the cultists regen. Oh no, magic. But letting the people that you have say, okay, cool, let's give them some, I'm giving them then an extra hour to take a breather, and then I'm providing them a space to take an extra breather. The cultists were just piling up in the back of the church, but more kept coming. And yeah, I'm rambling a little bit, but yeah, safety is the main thing that you should be thinking about. And if you're adding things like a regen, or if you're adding passive mechanics that let people come back after a certain amount of time, talk about with your volunteers about how you sort of want that to happen. I was just like, just wait a second, wait to quiet down a little bit, and just slowly get up and buck off into a building, or walk around and then jump into the fray again. Little things. Pretend to be innocent, yeah, and then stab somebody in the back. I actually still got a lot of fucking people. I was trying to heal the dude doing the chant from my one, and the truth seer actually was that they got to do it. I was like, you brought me the truth seer to do the very special magic boy chant. And they're like, yep. I'm like, fucking alright, awesome. Sweet as. We've got the Shy East Magister fucking do it. Cool. It's been made mad by, red magic, but fire magic, but sweet as. Let's hope he doesn't burn us. He turned to chaos. He got KO'd. And then got. Anyway, that's like, and then play. Yeah, that's the players make their own canon with these sorts of things. From obviously back to the very start, the information that's being fed to them, the shades that they're painting from their own personal character knowledge. Fucking man, there was like demons possessing people and shit. Cool. That's what they're saying. That's how you start rumors. You roll with it, and if that comes up later on down the track, and you, the quest giver, have to deal with those repercussions, like explaining what the fuck actually happened in a court. Cool. Just means people get just more word of mouth. More people have to, more people know about it. Everything potentially spurring from whatever you make will come as a positive, or in a situation where it will then make. I have some more things. My last thing is research. Research your setting. Research what obviously your state, where you're from is, back to your character, back at the start again. And there's really good resources all over the internet which you can get your hands on in digital form. These are typically stuff that come in non-digital format, but you can get PDFs of it. You can buy from the source if it is still in print. Stuff from the Warhammer fantasy stuff, like the RP, good sources of information. The thing with Warhammer lore is that not everybody is going to be a reliable narrator. Not everything is going to be 100% set in stone. This is how it is. You've got your first, second, third, fourth edition of Warhammer Fantasy. So, if you're citing a piece from like a first edition that is a couple of lines, I would say still kind of use it, but think back to how like that rumor stuff is. I wouldn't make a character based off that 2-line piece from a first edition. I would I would probably use it as maybe as something that may be an accompaniment to that, but it would be something that you would uh, definitely take with pinch of salt. There's some stuff that we get that my warband gets because we're Sigmarites. There's a thing that happened in the Wizard Wars, in that big Wizard War, which essentially dwarves were like, I see you lose an empire. Here's a gun that kill wizards, and then the empire won. So there was wizards that were defected to the empire rather than fighting with the wizards that were fighting against the empire, and so to identify themselves on the field, and this is just little bits of lore that we just found, just literally an image. And then I found a couple of things that reinforced it. So you find something cool, you find something to accompany it within other sources. Obviously, source and research. I am an enemy. I am your friend. That's how wizards of Sigmar during the Wizard War identified themselves in the Empire. Twin Tail Comet, I'm an ally. Backwards, I'm not your friend. You're gonna get fucked up, sort of thing. So I thought it was kind of cool. So Tome of Salvation is really good for the people who are religious inclined. It's really good for doing stuff where you are wanting to take snippets from religious powers, find out about how different cultures and different sects run and how they act within the Warhammer universe. It has quite a lot of fluff. Treat it like your DMG. Look for a section, have a read. It's not in there. Look for a section that first section's potentially cited, and then treat it like your Wikipedia link hopping. Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay PDF is just such a wealth of resources. It gives you a good idea of what the sort of level that heroes would be at in Warhammer. These potentially will be close to what your characters will be if you are making them as the Avenger of Sword. The Jack of all trades, master of none sort of deal. The hero. You when you're making a character, when you're thinking about where you're coming from, writing a quest and things like that, you've got to treat your negatives as positives, as opportunities to like, not knowing how to read is a good one. Exactly. Yeah. No, in negatives again. Yeah, they're positive. That's what you want. So. Mhm. Oh, absolutely. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's great. I love it. Um, uh, on D&D, D&D is a good resource to actually sort of help step you into um, uh, Yeah, in-person roleplay. Hmm. Physically in person. It's all adjusting yourself to levels of improvisation. Improv. My words aren't working. Yeah. Yeah. Quest, big quest, week-long quest. Have you have a day. Everybody says it. Nobody listens to it. I didn't listen to it my first big quest. Have a day. This is going into now quest talk, but have a day for yourself. Have a day where you just, if you need a nervous breakdown cry in your tent because character bleed hit too hard, fucking go for it. If you need a nap, take that fucking nap. Have a cry, have a nap. Have something to eat, drink some water, chill out. Maybe even have a quiet day cleaning up camp with a few people. It's all something to help sort of take the help soften the emotion of the stakes of the situation, because quests can become pretty serious, and things where it's high stakes can feel real real high stakes. Like, it's a get oh, you're breaking my immersion. Come on. It's the immersion is the event itself. You're gonna be fairly immersed in the event, unless somebody's doing burnouts in their fucking Toyota Corolla in the car park. It's not much is really going to be tearing you away from the immersion. Sure, you may walk from a medieval tent town into a tavern with a fucking microwave in it, but you know what? You'll pull out the Visa card at some point. Yeah, you'll pull out the Visa card at some point, guys. But yeah, the immersion can get pretty real. It can get pretty intense, and it's about quest is a good one. Middle of quest is the perfect time just to take that day for yourself. Um, so yeah, the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay Rulebook is a really good resource for helping you understand what sort of I've been talking about in here, but also help you sort of understand what uh, top level adventurers sort of have to deal with, and the dangers, because the roleplay game, the sort of like the D&DS game, is actually really good for describing. These are all in character letters, like here, and that's a lot of shit right there. Like, um, that's great to read about. Again, think about the time period that this stuff is happening, and some of the stuff that they're talking about may not specifically be in your time period, but again, that's fine. And this also gives good information about sort of the the stereotype of what other people will be seeing your race or your profession as. Nuance is real, and we sometimes forget that. Yeah. So just because you're a dwarf doesn't mean you're a blacksmith. You could be a dwarf who is a jeweler, but also has a fond love of sobriety. There we go. That's a character, I think. That's a really bad analogy, Henry. It's getting late. Another good resource. Oh my fucking god! I haven't. That's perfect VR time. Anyway, another one. This is hands down. This is the best one to, if you're struggling to figure out what the fuck type of character you want. This has 258 pages of jobs, of just what standard people would be. If Master is in there, maybe stray away from it. Master is stuff that you could probably earn an opportunity to get to at a quest, or at not a quest, at quests. A witch hunter. Every witch hunter had to be an initiate at some point. You know, not everybody was a warrior priest straight off the bat. Everybody would love to be, but not everybody was. But you know, some quests will have options for you and for that to be facilitated to get to those situations. It's about talking to people and seeing what is going on at the event. But this is really good to sort of find a good idea or how you could play a character, how you could then twist this sort of stuff, and run from that with there. But from there, it's got a lot of careers, and there is some really good fluff text in here. The career compendium is a fucking gold mine. If you are writing RPs for online, this one is an unofficial rule expansion for fantasy, which accompanies this super huge map. In fact, the download for this is on this page somewhere. Yeah, on this page somewhere there is the travel distancing. I have a copy of it if you have trouble finding it. To me up in the page. People watching at home, Swordcraft boys and gals. And them's and days. Oh, it's so good. It's so fucking good. I was tempted just to be like, yeah, so when we changed to war. Here's a fun fact. Fun thing about flagellants, they're actually not seen as a bad thing in towns. They're they're like, oh, we've got a couple of flagellants. And might last a little bit longer than we thought then. It's a sign that we're growing nice and well then. Couple of flagellants in town means your town's healthy. Means you've got enough people there to go, cool. So, a manic breakdown nihilism. I'm gonna harm myself for religion. So, yeah, I guess town's doing great then. Cool. Yeah, if people can become a flagellant, your town's doing great. Yeah, so this actually has physical mile distance for all your folk out there writing stuff, seeing how far these are in real life, and how much distance it would take. Gives you a fairly decent idea on writing a thing. Oh, we walked from Kriegstore to Sudenburg, and it took 3 days, where it may in fact take a day and a half to get to Sudenburg instead of from Kriegstore. You can use comparisons here and there. I do recall there is a map floating around of this with all the actual stuff on there. Obviously, it is unofficial. It's not actually a part of this resource here. It is somewhere around there. And it worked out to be, I think I calculated vaguely, I think it was around about an evening or a day to get to Kriegstore. But if you're walking, you're going to be taking breaks and things like that. So you're adding about an hour on top of whatever you're doing per X kilometers, say. Because Google Maps will always think that you're walking day and night, so you're probably always doubling the amount of time that you're traveling. For you people writing stuff. Yeah, so I did a big cockerel pilgrimage for our warband and stuff like that. This is a image off of this, and it took me ages to do, because that was a real big fucking pain in the ass, but it is not done in a vector map, so it is completely scuffed now. So yeah, I did a big thing, helping, more resources you can have for yourself, the better. Even if you're making stuff and then you never use it again, I've never used this at all. I've given it an eye. I plotted it out and I thought, yep, that's probably a way that the warband and stuff like that went. The stuff that made the warband come down to here. Yep, that sounds about right. You can see that in fact, the thing went through a different path instead of going the safe way and blah 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 and all that stuff, yada yada yada. Life of Sigmar is a good one to anyone who wants to know about sort of essentially creation of the empire. That is really good to know, especially if you're playing religious. Even if you're not going to be a Sigmarite, this one has stuff about Ulrich and the Ulrich, because Sigmar was in fact a follower of Ulrich, and he was prophesied by the Ulrich to be the one to take sort of Ulrich's sort of throne in the pantheon of gods. So again, not monotheistic. Not one religion, many. Sigmarites again are just the most enthusiastic about it. And again, the Tome of Salvation will have stuff about how, each religion and their followers and their worshippers and their servants of that religion are, how they act, how they stereotypically act, how they take up their roles, what sub-factions are in those roles, and you can then have a look at other stuff, like 1d4 Chain's a really good resource. Take it with a grain of fucking salt, though, because it's the most detailed, but it's also the most memed. It's called 1d4 Chain for a reason. But that's the most detailed one. That is currently down at the moment as we speak. Yeah. That's essentially my TED Talk. TLDR, think about where you're from. When were you born? Look at your timeline. Think about when your parents had experienced events. That generational knowledge. Pick and choose your what parts of that knowledge you know. We want to make generational knowledge more rumored, more question marky. I knew this happened, but I can't remember what they said about what place or where that was. Or think of it as like, again, I know stuff about the Boer War in real life. I don't know. I can't remember where the Boer War was for. And I know that it had impacts when transitioning over World War One. Could I tell you every battle in World War One? No. No, World War One happened in Europe. I know it happened a lot of places. But could I tell you everywhere? No. So that's the generational knowledge. And then there's the knowledge that you would know when your character's growing up. And that stuff, again, is still going to be, you pick and choose events, you pick and choose stuff that you remember, you weigh the significance by further reading and further reading what happens. Don't write page bios. If you're reading it, and you forget stuff in real life, cool. That's probably a good measure of how you want your character or how you want NPCs and stuff like that to have knowledge of things. That's a good way to also then add. Don't write yourself up and recite a character bio. Have colloquial knowledge is best. Pick and choose what you are meant to know and what stuff you are going to purposely withhold. Margaret of Marienburg was elected empress. Grand Theogenes said no, and then we broke out into a civil war. I think the Midlander dude is the now the emperor, but I'm not sure. I know something's going on with Slovenia. Those dicks have been doing shit for ages because I've lost. But I keep hearing that there was a siege. Now, I've been in the Border Prince for a good couple of years now. I really hope they're doing alright back in Ostermark. You know, being a person of the Empire, who's in the Border Princes again, we're very far away. Won't know about everything that's going on in the world. So you pick and choosing information, your societal knowledge as well, socioeconomic economic knowledge. You know, what does your class afford you? What level of information does your class afford you? You know, you would not know what scape would not know what the Avengers level threat of things would be. Pre-existing events and things happening with holding. Quests are a good measure to add knowledge to your character, but still treat most things that you're told as like the 2 beers in Barstool shit talk. You take everything with a grain of salt. Current year in Swordcraft is our current real life year, 2022. That changes every year. At time record. And yeah, that's essentially it. Think about your characters. Think about when and if you go to write quests. Think about colloquial knowledge, socioeconomic, what level of information that affords you, the layers of stuff, what you do and do not know about as that character. Starting off with a job, if you really don't know, it's a perfect place to start. There's heaps of resources that you can get your hands on without having to pay a cent. Always support the official release. And read any information and source you can get your hands on. Wikis are there for a reason. People spend hours and years on just creating and collating information for you to get your hands on. Like, this massive map right here is a passion project by somebody. Like, this is a wealth of information just in itself. Like, gives you a real good idea, helps you sort of, help ground your character from where they were from. And then, if you were in the Empire and then moved to the Border Princes, how, why, those are the details that you should be not writing down, but in fact, maybe even just thinking about. Again, you don't want to be writing these massive character bios. If that works for you and you can help strip out that meta of that sort of stuff and help relate that, that's perfect. Yeah, everybody in Warhammer typically will have a religion. Everyone in Warhammer will typically have a religion. Yeah and nay. It's, your fantasy companions and everything like that. Twist, turn, Swordcraft is adapting Warhammer Fantasy to fit its LARP, to fit its events, its everyday thing. We are twisting it in a way where it can be used. It's an abridged sort of deal. It's not playing at any of the events. We're our own separate little thing, but we are still using it as a baseline. So, yeah. This has been my TED Talk. Grant, thank you for sitting through this. I've really appreciated your input where you've made it. I didn't catch a single word. Thank you all for watching. If you're watching at home and watching the VODs, thank you for sitting through this 3-hour-long ramble. I hope you got some information out of it. I have uh I can link you to the resources available. Um, again, if you can buy the PDFs, if they're still in production, buy them. If you can't, there's definitely means to get your hands on stuff. But yeah, please always support official release. And yeah, just hit people up and have a chat. If you're confused about anything or if you want citation on stuff, I have a page. There's a meme page. Hit me up on that. Yeah, it's a long vid. Thanks for watching, and yeah, links again from home down in the description.